To make my roller blinds for my chicken coop, I'm just using some old piping that I've got. It is a bit buckled, but I'll straighten it with a heat gun. And I'm cutting 2 pieces at 95 centimeters each. To make my blinds, I'm just taking an old sheet and cutting the size that I need. So my width is 95 centimeters across, and the length of it is 1.6 meters. So I'm just going to cut that to size and put some hems on it. I've sewed my hems on this side, and what I've done is I've taken an overlap. I've folded the material over at 5 centimeters and I've sewed all along to the other side. And now I'm taking my pipe and I'm just going to be sliding that into the little pocket that I made. So I've made one at the top and one at the bottom. And now I'm just going to roll it up so that we can install it. I find it easier if you roll them. And then I'm just going to put a zip tie or a piece of wire you can use as well, or some thread, just to hold it together while we are going to install that. There are a few different ways of putting up the blinds, but I'm going to be using 2 hooks and the eye hooks to put this particular blind up. So I'm just going to be drilling some holes into the beam at the top here, and I'm going in by 3 centimeters and drilling a hole underneath there to put the hook so that I can just hang the blind on there. And I'm doing the same on the other side. I've measured where I want to put my hook in, so I suggest you measure exactly where it's going to go by holding it up like that to measure it, because I've put my hooks in to the wood already, but my pole is not as long as that particular bar, so I can't measure in the 3 centimeters, so I've got to mark exactly where it is. And then I'm just going to put one of the small hooks in there. I've got both the hanging hook eyelets in, so there's one on that side and one on that side. And the reason why I'm using this particular system is because my pipes are a little bit bowed. But you can just take the piece of material or whatever you're using and put a flat piece of wood on it and then attach it just to the top of your beam where you're putting your blind in. To put the rope guides in, I'm measuring in 12 centimeters because you don't want the ropes to be right at the end. So measure in 12 centimeters on each side. Actually, for this one I'm actually going to go for 13 centimeters because 12 is just a little bit too close to my hanging hook. And then I'm going to mark that, and we're going to put 3 of the larger size rope guides in there. I've marked in 13 centimeters from either side, and the distance between the two is 72 centimeters, so I've put one there at 36 centimeters. So now we're going to put our hooks in. I'm just drilling a pilot hole first so I can get the hooks in. And try and make sure that you've got the same distance, so the distance from there to there is 1 centimeter, so I'm drilling up 1 centimeter on each of them. I've got the holes drilled, and now we're just going to turn our hook into there. Do all 3 the same. I've got all my hooks in, and now we can hang the blind. So I put our blind up, and as I said, it's easier if you've got it rolled up. And now we're going to work on the rope system. I'm using this nylon cord, but any rope will do. Now when you cut the rope, you must make sure I've actually let the blind down just so that you can see. So you must measure so that you have got it going from the top wrapped around your beam all the way down the bottom, up again, and the whole length of the top part and a little bit hanging down so that you've got something to pull on, because you don't want to cut your rope short. So the first piece of rope I've cut 4 meters 70 for a span of 95 centimeters that goes across the top, and the drop on this particular one is meter 23. To attach our rope, I'm threading it over the top of my beam and then threading the remainder through the loop that I've made. And then just pulling it tight. And now for this one we're going to be going over the back, so you thread all the cord over the back and then pull it up over that and thread it through your loop here. So it goes through that loop and then through this loop and through the end loop, and then just pull that so that it's holding the blind like that. And now for the other side, we're measuring from the top of our beam and the length going double the length of that, but we don't need to go across the whole thing because it's just going to be going through this one. You can, however, if you want to make it go through the middle, make it go through and there, and so you've got your puller in the middle here, but I'm going to use the end piece to do the pullers to pull the blind up and down. I've tied the rope over the beam and dropped the remainder of the rope behind it, and then come up the front and threaded it through this hook so that we've got them crossing over here for when you're pulling. And now we can release the centerpiece. To make the blind come down, all you have to do is just release the ropes and then the blind comes down. So the blind is down now, and I've tied my 2 pieces of rope together just so that I don't lose them, and then to pull the blind up we're just going to pull the rope. And release the strings again, and it just comes down. It's a rather nice, cheap and easy way of making a blind, and it works really, really well. So pulling the string again, you can see it just rolls rather beautifully all the way up to the tip. And release the strings again, and it just comes down. To make my little brackets for holding my blind in the up position, I'm just taking some of these soft drink tabs and I'm just holding it right at the end here, and then I'm going to bend them. So I've got the piece so that the sharp sides are facing towards me, and all I'm doing is bending it a little bit so that I can get the angles right, like that, so that when that is stuck onto the wood, I've got a bit of an angle for the rope to tie around. And I'm using these screws that have got big heads on them to drill into the wood to put these small little pieces up. So they're buckled like that. The short piece where the bend is, I'm putting the screw in there and then drilling that into the wood. Drill the one piece in so that you can see it's got quite a nice angle on it to hold the rope in when the blind is in the up position. So I've put both of them on, so now when I roll the blind up, I can attach my string like that so that it doesn't fall down. So it keeps the blind up out of the way when it's not in use, because this little blind has been made so that the chickens have got a bit of a cozy place to roost, but in winter it gets a little bit cold, so that's just to make them a little bit warmer. And in summer I raise it up so that there's a bit more airflow.